You think when a woman touches herself in front of you, she is just fidgeting. She is not. Every single time a woman brings her hand to her neck, her hair, her lips, her jewelry, her face, while she is standing in front of you, her nervous system is sending a signal so specific, so biologically precise, that once you know how to read it, you will never walk away from a conversation wondering where you stood. The problem is not that the signal was hidden. The problem is that nobody ever taught you the language, and today, that changes. I want to speak to you directly for a moment. If you are a man in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, and you have ever walked away from a conversation with a woman feeling confused, wondering if there was something there, replaying the moment and then talking yourself out of it, you are not alone. Most men at this stage of life have spent decades being told that attraction is loud, that it announces itself, that if a woman is interested, you will know. So when she was subtle, when she twisted her necklace while you were talking, when she tucked her hair behind her ear and looked at you a half-second longer than necessary, when she rested her chin in her hand and just watched you speak, you dismissed it. You told yourself she was just being polite or friendly, or that it meant nothing, and she walked away wondering why you did not respond. That gap between the signal she was sending and the signal you were receiving is exactly what we are here to close today. I'm going to walk you through 7 specific self-touch signals, what each one means, what is happening in her nervous system when she does it, and what it tells you about where you stand. But before I do, I need to tell you something about the last signal on this list. Signal number 7 is the one that surprises men the most, because it does not look like attraction at all. In fact, the majority of men interpret it as the opposite, as boredom, as disinterest, as a sign that she is mentally checked out of the conversation. She has not. And once you understand what is actually happening in that moment, you will wish someone had told you this 30 years ago. Stay with me until the end. That one alone may change the way you read every interaction you have had. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I have spent years in behavioral research and relationship psychology, studying specifically how men and women communicate attraction, and more importantly, how much of that communication happens completely beneath conscious awareness. This channel exists for one reason: to give you the clearest, most honest, most evidence-grounded understanding of what is actually happening in the interactions you are already having. Not theory, not games, not manipulation, evidence, clarity, and the truth about what women are communicating, from someone who understands this from the inside. If you are new here, welcome. Please subscribe, because every day I publish content specifically designed for men who are ready to stop guessing and start understanding. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you. I read every comment. Your questions shape every video I make. Now, let us get into this. Before we go further, if you want to understand women at this level every single week, hit subscribe and tap the notification bell. The content on this channel is in-depth, it is evidence-grounded, and I post every single week without fail. All right, let us start with the science. Here is what most people do not understand about self-touch. When a woman touches her own body in a social setting, it is almost never a conscious decision. She is not thinking, I will touch my neck now to signal attraction. The behavior originates several layers below conscious thought. In the autonomic nervous system, which governs responses the body executes before the rational mind has time to catch up. This class of behavior has a clinical name in ethology and behavioral psychology. It is called a displacement activity, a physical action the body produces to manage an internal surge of emotional arousal that has nowhere else to go. The concept was formalized by ethologists Nicholas Tinbergen and Konrad Lorenz in the mid-20th century through their study of animal behavior, and has since been applied extensively to human social contexts. Here is the biology. When a woman is in the presence of someone she is attracted to, the brain releases a combination of neurochemicals: dopamine, associated with reward and motivation, and norepinephrine, which is linked to alertness and the physical symptoms of excitement. This release creates what researchers describe as nervous energy, a measurable increase in physical tension that the body needs to discharge somewhere. The hands are the primary discharge site, and the specific area of the body her hands move toward tells you, with remarkable precision, what her nervous system is experiencing in that moment. Dr. Albert Mehrabian's research at UCLA explored how emotional states are communicated non-verbally. His work is specifically about the communication of feelings and attitudes, the relative weight the body carries when emotional content is being conveyed. And it established a foundational framework for understanding how much information exists in the body independently of spoken words. Research published in the Journal of Nonverbal Behavior has documented that women's self-touching behaviors in mixed-gender conversations increase significantly in interactions where the subject reports feeling attracted to their conversational partner, compared to neutral interactions. The body responds before the mind has formed an intention. This is not flirtation. It is not performance. It is biology, operating exactly as it was designed to. What you are about to learn is the translation key. 1. The involuntary invitation, hair. The first signal, and the one most men recognize but almost always misread, is hair touch. There's a critical distinction that almost no one explains. A woman casually brushing hair from her face because it is in her eyes is a grooming reflex. It means nothing beyond the literal. But a woman who repeatedly returns her hand to her hair, twisting it around a finger, sweeping it slowly to one side, pulling it over one shoulder, while she is looking at you or talking to you, that is categorically different. Dr. David Givens, an anthropologist who founded and directs the Center for Nonverbal Studies in Spokane, Washington, has spent decades cataloging human courtship signals. His research identifies repetitive hair touching as one of the most consistent and cross-culturally documented preening behaviors associated with attraction. It appears across cultures and age groups. It is not a learned behavior. It is instinctive. The key word is repetitive. Once is maintenance. Twice or more during the same conversation, with her attention on you, her body is drawing your eyes toward her. She's making herself visible to you in a way she may not even be consciously aware of. What do you do with this? You do not comment on it. You do not point it out. You simply allow yourself to register it and continue engaging with the same calm, grounded presence you were already bringing. Because her nervous system is already responding to that presence. You do not need to perform. You simply need to stay. 2. The trust exposure. Neck and collarbone. The second signal is more subtle than hair touch and considerably more significant. When a woman lightly touches her own neck, running her fingers along the side, pressing fingertips to her collarbone, or drawing her hand slowly up toward her throat, she is exposing and drawing attention to one of the most biologically vulnerable areas of the human body. From an anatomical standpoint, the carotid arteries and jugular veins run through the neck, close to the surface. In the ethological literature on human courtship, exposing the neck is documented as a trust and openness signal, communicating, in the wordless language of the body, I feel safe enough in your presence to be physically unguarded. Behavioral researchers who have studied female courtship signals in naturalistic settings have consistently noted that neck touching appears more frequently in interactions where the woman is positively engaged with her conversational partner. It is not background behavior. It is contextual, meaning it responds directly to who is in front of her. For men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, men who carry a grounded, settled energy that younger men rarely possess, this signal tends to appear more quickly than they realize, because what triggers it is not youth or physical presentation. What triggers it is safety. And safety is something many mature men have spent decades building inside themselves, often without ever recognizing its effect on others. 3. The spotlight signal, lips. The third signal moves from structural vulnerability into something more directly sensory. And it is one that women themselves are rarely conscious of executing. When a woman touches her own lips during a conversation with you, pressing a fingertip lightly to them, biting her lower lip, slowly applying lip balm while maintaining eye contact, or briefly running her tongue across them, she is directing visual attention to one of the most attention-capturing features on the human face. Research using eye-tracking technology has investigated where visual attention lands during face-to-face social interaction. Studies in this area have consistently found that the mouth and lips attract a significant proportion of a viewer's visual attention, particularly when lip color contrasts with surrounding skin tone. This is not new information to women. The use of lip color as a social signal is documented across human cultures and predates recorded history. It is one of the oldest known forms of personal adornment. When she touches her lips in front of you, she is amplifying a signal your brain is already attending to. She is turning up the volume on something you are already noticing. As with all signals, one instance in isolation is data. Multiple signals layered across a single interaction are a pattern, and patterns are where the real information lives. 4. The displacement touch, jewelry. This is one of the most underrated signals in this entire set, and almost no one discusses it clearly. When a woman begins fidgeting with her jewelry in your presence, spinning a ring on her finger, running a necklace pendant back and forth along its chain, pulling lightly at an earring, what you are witnessing is the displacement activity operating in its most visible form. The emotional arousal in her body has created nervous energy. Her hands need somewhere to put that energy. The jewelry becomes a proxy, a physical object that receives the kinetic attention her body wants to direct toward you, because the interaction has not yet created the context for direct contact. Behavioral researchers studying self-contact and object manipulation in social settings, including work by anthropologist Desmond Morris, who documented displacement behaviors in humans extensively in his observational research, have noted that self-touching and object-touching increase measurably when a person is experiencing suppressed emotional activation. The body is looking for an outlet. The jewelry is the nearest available one. There's also a directional element worth noting. Many women wear jewelry at the neckline, a pendant that falls at the collarbone or sternum. When her hand moves repeatedly to that necklace during your conversation, she is drawing visual attention downward from her face. That is not accidental. It is the body doing what the body does when it wants to be noticed. What is the move here? Gentle engagement. If she is leaning slightly forward and playing with her necklace, her nervous system is telling you she is comfortable and activated. Meet that by slowing slightly. Hold eye contact a half-second longer. Let the warmth in your voice increase. You are not chasing the signal. You are responding to it. There is a significant difference. 5. The presentation instinct. Clothing adjustment. The fifth signal is one that most men observe and immediately dismiss as irrelevant. When a woman begins adjusting her clothing in front of you, smoothing her top, straightening her collar, tugging a hem, checking that a strap is sitting correctly, she is not thinking about her outfit. She is thinking about how she appears to you specifically. Evolutionary psychologist Jeffrey Miller, whose academic work focuses on sexual selection and human mate preferences, has written about preening and grooming displays in humans within the broader framework of evolutionary mate signaling. The underlying principle is consistent across species. When a potential mate is present, the organism responds by optimizing its presentation. In humans, this manifests as clothing adjustment, posture correction, hair smoothing, and similar self-grooming behaviors. The critical distinction is context and timing. If she was adjusting her clothing before you arrived, that is routine self-maintenance. But if the adjustment begins after she notices you, or during a conversation with you. It is a targeted behavior. She is aware of your attention, and she wants to look her best inside that attention. This signal is particularly worth watching in interactions with mature women. The adjustment may be subtler, a barely there smoothing of a sleeve, a small check of a neckline. Do not dismiss the small version. It carries the same meaning as the obvious one. 6. The wrist opening. Inner forearm exposure. This signal is less commonly discussed, and it warrants careful framing. When a woman subtly turns her wrist outward during a conversation with you, exposing the soft inner forearm, or rests her arm with the inside of the wrist facing upward, she is displaying what behavioral observers describe as an openness posture. The inner wrist carries visible veins close to the surface, and in the naturalistic observation literature, including the work of Desmond Morris on human body language, wrist exposure is associated with a lowered defensive posture and positive social orientation. It is worth noting that the experimental evidence for this specific signal is less extensively studied in controlled research than some of the other signals we have discussed. What we can say with confidence is that it is a behavioral observation consistent with the broader pattern of vulnerability display, and that it tends to appear when the person feels genuinely at ease rather than performing ease. What makes it relevant here is its timing. It tends to emerge not in the opening minutes of a conversation, but after a sustained period of presence. Once she has been in your company long enough to feel the quality of stillness that many mature men carry without being aware of it. In that context, it is worth noticing. When you observe it, do not react to it directly. Simply allow the warmth in your engagement to deepen. Ask her something real. She has opened a door. The response she is looking for is not technique, it is presence. I want to pause here for just a moment. If any of these signals have landed, if you are sitting there thinking of a specific conversation, a specific woman, a specific moment you are now seeing differently, I want you to drop a comment below. Tell me, which of these signals have you been seeing without knowing what it meant? I read every comment. And your answer might be exactly what helps another man finally understand what has been right in front of him. If this is already changing how you see things, hit the like button. It takes 1 second and it tells me to keep making this content. I want to tell you about a man I will call Richard. Richard was 58. He had been divorced for 4 years. He was thoughtful, professionally established, emotionally grounded. The kind of man who listened when people spoke, who never rushed a conversation, who had an ease about him that people noticed immediately. And yet, he was completely convinced that women had stopped noticing him. He told me, in our first session, that he felt invisible. That attraction was something that happened to younger men, that the window had closed. When I asked him to walk me through his recent social interactions, a different picture emerged entirely. There was a woman at his club who had chosen to sit beside him at 3 consecutive events. He had assumed she simply liked that particular seat. There was a woman in his professional network who played with her necklace every single time they spoke, a detail he noticed and had quietly filed under nervous habit. There was a woman at a dinner party who rested her chin in her hand and watched him speak for nearly 20 minutes with a small, steady expression on her face. He had been convinced he was boring her. He was not boring her. She went home that night and told a friend she had met someone worth knowing. Richard was not invisible. He had simply never been given the translation key. The moment he understood what these signals actually meant, not as theory, but as a living language he could now read in real time, something shifted. Not his behavior, not his personality, his awareness. And awareness, it turns out, carries its own kind of magnetism, because a man who notices, a man who can look at a woman and quietly recognize what she is communicating, creates something most men never manage to create. He makes her feel seen, and feeling seen is the beginning of everything that matters. 7. The falling signal. Face cradling and chin rest. Now, Signal number 7. I told you at the beginning that this one surprises people. I told you that most men read it completely backwards. Here it is. When a woman rests her chin in her hand, cradles her own face, or gently brings her fingers to her cheek while she is listening to you talk, most men look at that and think, she is bored. She is tired. She is propping herself up because she wants this conversation to end. That reading is almost always wrong. What she is actually doing is drawing your attention, unconsciously, directly to her face, to her eyes, to her expression, to everything she is feeling but has not yet said. It is one of the most unguarded gestures a person can make in a social setting, and it only appears when the internal performance has stopped. Dr. Monica Moore, a psychologist at Webster University in Missouri, conducted a significant observational study in which she cataloged nonverbal behaviors displayed by women in naturalistic social settings, bars, university common areas, and social gatherings. Her research, published in the journal Ethology and Sociobiology, identified over 50 distinct nonverbal signals associated with female courtship behavior. Facial self-touching, including chin resting and cheek cradling, appeared consistently among the signals observed in women who were actively engaged with and drawn toward a male conversational partner. Here is what is happening when she does it. She is no longer managing how she is being perceived. The self-monitoring that people perform in early social interactions, the careful attention to posture, expression, presentation, has dissolved. What you are seeing is a woman who has stopped performing and started being, in front of you, quietly hoping you will meet her there. It is not boredom. It is the opposite of boredom. It is a woman so absorbed in your presence, so settled in the space you have created, that her body has completely let its guard down. The chin rest only appears when safety is total. If you have ever been in a conversation with a woman who sat across from you with her chin in her hand, eyes on yours, watching you speak with that quiet and steady expression, and you thought she was growing tired of you, she was not growing tired of you. She was falling for you, and now you know. Here is what I want you to take with you today. These signals, the hair, the neck, the lips, the jewelry, the clothing, the wrist, the face, they have been present in your life for a very long time. Women have been sending them to you, in coffee shops, in work corridors, at dinner tables, in quiet moments you have probably already forgotten. You were not missing them because you were not paying attention. You were missing them because no one ever handed you the language, and that is not a small thing. The absence of that knowledge has likely cost you real connections, real moments of genuine mutual interest that dissolved simply because neither of you had a bridge to walk toward the other. That changes now, not because you are going to start scanning every woman you meet with a clinical checklist, but because awareness, once it is unlocked, becomes automatic. Your brain will begin registering these signals the way it registers any language once you have learned it, naturally, without effort, almost unconsciously. And with that awareness comes something even more important than technique: confidence. Grounded, quiet, earned confidence, the kind that comes not from performing, not from trying harder, but from knowing, from understanding what is actually happening in the room around you. You are not invisible. You never were. You were simply standing in a conversation that was already happening, and now you can hear it. Before you go, if this video gave you at least one thing you are going to carry into your next interaction, I would genuinely love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me, which of the 7 signals have you been seeing and misreading? Be specific if you can. I am reading every reply. If you have not subscribed yet, this is your moment. This is the level of depth I bring every week. And if you want to go further, if you want to understand not just how to read her signals, but how to respond in a way that deepens the connection rather than closing it, stay on the channel. That conversation is coming very soon. Take care of yourselves. And the next time a woman cradles her face in her hand while you are speaking, smile quietly. She is already there.